Hey, wonderful people. Good morning from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I actually thought of doing a fragrance review this early morning at 3 a.m., but just had a very long day, very busy day, and I went out, a lot of activities and stuff. Very busy day, to be honest, and it was very tiring in the end. So I did manage to finish all the work by the night, and I was, kind of like, settled down with everything, the things to do. Then I was thinking like, what should I review today? Because I have a few samples, I have a new fragrance to review, but I felt like, what my heart told me, that do something, this topic, do this topic that I'm about to do. And I actually had second thoughts as well, like, should I be doing it? Could be controversial, might be a little bit, it might anger some of the people out there who watch, but I decided to go for it because something I really see in many groups, in my own group, Fracom Bangladesh, I often see many people are confused. They write comments, and I do welcome all kind of comments and criticisms, as well as people having questions, because not everybody should be feeling the same way, or rather we should make everybody feel the same way, because people should have difference in opinions. That's what makes the whole game interesting. So this topic is kind of inspired by many questions and inquiries I see in people, and I'm going to try to answer some of the questions people ask, and tackle regarding some discontinued perfumes, or rather hard to find or over hyped, many kind of fragrances out there. So people have questions in their head like, should I be buying this, should I be doing it, should I be just be more aware? A lot of questions, right? So my topic today, I really want to do this. Hopefully this discussion will find some people beneficial, and I will make some sense what I'm trying to convey the message. Okay, so before I start, it's not a fragrance review, but I'm going to show you my scent of the early morning or late night. Mugler, this is what is it called? God, I already forgot the name. Ultimate, the latest flanker, the blue bottle. Basically, I went for shower, kind of grooming, and killed few mosquitoes. If you live in Bangladesh, you would know the significance. Anyway, so winter time we have a lot of mosquitoes. But anyway, so I'm wearing this end of the day, kind of like relaxing, nice sort of cappuccino, sweet smelling fragrance. It has very nice sort of a relaxing, casual vibe, and very nice fragrance to enjoy and do this review, or rather the video. So the title, after talking for 3 minutes, is why you shouldn't regret buying fragrances. And let's see what you get. So first of all, where do I start? The starting point I would go with is that my journey, or rather our journey as fragrance bros or frag heads, as collectors, or let's say I am a reviewer. I became a reviewer. I don't know when it happened. It's just when I look back, 2015. Now it's 2019, almost 2020. It's almost 5 years. Actually, it's not 5 years. It's kind of like, if you really see, hold on. Yeah, sorry about that. I was telling you it's the season for mosquitoes. Yeah, it's one of the mosquitoes like flying around. So we have to be ready with our weapons and stuff. Otherwise, they suck out blood all night. Anyway, but what I was saying is, where we are as frag heads, and I was telling you like it's not really 5 years, but if you count when I started doing it, 2015, 16, and now years, if you count, it's been quite a journey. And I personally do not know how this happened. It's kind of like a madness, craziness. There was one point I had about 30, 40 fragrances in 2016, and I thought I would never be able to buy fragrance like Bleu de Chanel, Fahrenheit by Dior. Those are my dream fragrances. I really wanted to get the best of the best. And I did make a list of 100 fragrances I really wanted. And I will tell you something. When you have your dream and you work for it, sometimes dreams come true. It happened with me. So I did end up buying a lot of fragrance. I found my way to continue my journey. It hasn't been easy, and the fragrance journey, it's always any journey that you take. If you are actually fully committed, you're going to have your sunny days, brighter days, and then you're going to have your gloomy days. And that's what it teaches you, if you keep doing it for some time. So something you believe in, you should always do it. I used to believe in, at times, I did a lot of things that I really loved, followed the passion: cricket, food, I used to love cars, sport attire, shoes. And now my whole journey is about fragrances at this moment. So buying a lot of fragrances, using them, going through them, reviewing them. Sometimes I forget what did I say in that particular review, or which fragrance I reviewed. But I'll tell you one thing. Since I started my journey, I never really regretted buying anything. Why is that? I have bought uh, full bottles. I have bought fragrances like in terms of official samples, those they give for free in overseas, but here in Bangladesh you have to buy them. Then in terms of decants, like 10 15 mls. Then sometimes like the miniature bottles, like you get like these bottles, official small bottles, Givenchy or Esemiake. And then of course, as I was mentioning, the full on bottles. So when I bought different kind of bottles, it really was more of like I wanted to try and smell new fragrances, not necessarily always that I can afford a fragrance. Okay, many times people lend me their fragrances to try and review. Sorry. So there was a time when I started my journey, I was super confused. I had limited amount of cash per month. I think in Malaysia fragrances are very expensive, so I really had to make my choice. I have to do lists. I really have to think so hard day and night, watching reviews of Jeremy, Mark, Steven, all these reviewers, and you start finding that interest. Those are the best times in your life. Trust me, when you start, and so many choices. You really have to take them down one by one, what you want, and you just buy end of the month. You buy like say 10 out of your 100 favorite fragrances, and you go like, oh, geez, that was some challenging task. So next month we look ahead to buy some more of our favorite fragrances. But I remember when I started my journey, I enjoyed them, but I always had that craving for the ones that I do not have. Like let's say I went for Chanel, I bought Allure Sport Au Extreme Edition Blanche, and then in my head I always thought like, hey, Bleu de Chanel. Then I'm like, hey, Bleu de Chanel EDP. Oh damn! Then I missed out Allure original Allure Platinum Egoist. So you keep doing like what's your preference or priorities. You cannot end up buying obviously everything in from one house. If you are a collector, real collector, and you have that sort of money, different case. But most people, it's all about choices. You choose the best ones that you really want, that goes with your taste or your lifestyle or your requirement as per your taste goes. So I'll tell you one thing. Many times I did research. How I buy my fragrance. I do not buy impulse buying that much. Not these days anymore because I learned my lessons. But when I do research, I have certain interest. I do spend significant time watching reviews, read people's written reviews, and I see users, reaction. I see my trusted reviewers breakdown, and then I have like idea like, oh, these are my notes. Leather booze, oh, that really works. So I did pull trigger blindly based on those reviews, but I had sort of like back in my head I had some information stored. So I never ever held expectation from a fragrance, because I always knew if I have expectations there is a room for disappointment. So first rule for me in my fragrance journey is I do not hold expectations from anything. I just want to see. I'm ready to discover. Sometimes if you think you're too smart, you cannot be happy. Sometimes you let it come to you naturally. Let a day come to you, let it invite you. So I let a fragrance come and like say sometimes wow me or surprise me, or let's say hit me with something that I can welcome, I can test, and I can see the beauty in it. Obviously not all the blind buy is gonna go as per my expectations or my fullest satisfaction. That is normal. But I never really regret buying a fragrance. So if you're in that zone that you have so many hobbies but you have very limited income or limited money, but you see reviews all day, you watch reviews, fragrance reviews, let's say knife reviews, like Swiss knives and stuff, shoes, you like cars, you like vaping, but you can afford only one or two things, and that's not really gonna say that you can buy every single month each category one or two of your favorite items. It's not possible for you. So it becomes very painful because you just keep watching but you end up buying nothing. And then you feel like you feel anger, and you feel like I don't know, anguish, or what's the word, that you just become very judgmental. This is what I notice in many group members. Like they become so critical, but they actually do not have a collection. And I'm not trying to criticize. This is where people are gonna misunderstand me. Like, hey, if I don't have a collection, you're calling me like I'm not a lover. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, here is my scenario with fragrances. Whatever fragrance I buy, it sort of becomes like a journey for me. Like I like to test it. I like to put it to use. see if I can get compliments, if I can get longevity, or what different condition, weather condition it gives me, or people noticed it or say something good about it. Hey, I noticed a minty note in your fragrance. So I notice all these things, and if I try to see in over time if I can discover some new notes, or let's say sometimes I also try this, like let's say fragrance, this is Givenchy Gentleman Only Absolute. So I try to see over time if a fragrance is going to mature and change the color, or the composition becomes stronger, or the when it becomes vintage, so those batches, do they have any effect? So a lot of things I notice. But one thing I never do is regret a fragrance, regret buying a fragrance. If you're gonna buy a fragrance like impulse buy, and you're gonna be disappointed, there is nothing worse than disappointment, or let's say you have expectation versus is disappointment. It's like you're gonna feel like I wasted my money. But actually, if you look at it this way, if you love a game and you're willing to spend that sort of money, risking the fact that it might work for you, it may not work for you, that's the one time you're actually playing the game right. If you do not have that passion or love or the patience that you want to give it to a fragrance, I think playing a fragrance can become very, very difficult for people, and people can get very annoyed and frustrated with reviewers, like saying, hey, you said such a good fragrance, but I didn't feel the vibe, I did not get the longevity, but you wore it for 2 days only, twice. You did not give it enough time, you sold it off, you bought it for $100, you sold it for 40 or 50, and then you blame a reviewer, or let's say other community members, it's overhyped shit. I see that happen. Some guy asked in my group several times, what's up with Essence? Like I see this fragrance everywhere. Aquatic Essence I got discontinued, and sometimes people say it still can be found at some part of Europe, but our part of the world it's very difficult to find and becoming pricier by the day. So one guy was selling it, and then under his post, one guy commented like, hey, a few days back what happened, there was a huge hype. I smell some sort of sarcasm. He said, what happened to the hype? I thought it was selling like hotcake, now people are selling off their bottles. See, I mentioned that this guy didn't understand that sometimes people just bought it for a purpose to make some profit. They just bought it for, let's say, $100, they want to sell it for 150, so they made $50 out of that purchase. So that could be one reason. Another reason can be a person needs urgent cash. Let's say he has a family emergency, or he wants to buy a watch, for example, and he just doesn't have the cash at that moment, middle of the month. So he's letting it go, or he sees another fragrance that is a brand new release. So people play games differently. You do not know everybody's life story, so it's silly to assume that, oh, so the hype thing you bought and it was like you're fooled. So there are these certain people who are willing to see the cars, like people driving the cars, they're buying brand new cars, trying it out, and they just see it on the road, but they never take a test drive, they never actually buy the car, they never really drive it. If you did not spend some time with something, let's say car, give you an example, a car, if you do not know the interior of your car, if you do not know how comfortable is your leather seat, or the positioning of the steering, like up and down it can go, you can pull it off or not, and pull it back and off, and back and forth, or the car has good viewing angles and stuff, or enough glass area, or let's say it has a nice driving experience or suspension. You can only know these things, the fuel efficiency, after spending some time with the car. Let's say the car is not working with you, you're not feeling the vibe, then it's not really a good comparison between car and fragrances, because cars you cannot immediately sell off like the fragrances. But for fragrances, if you buy something, if it doesn't really work with you, you can let it go in the community, you can sell it off, and you're obviously going to lose some money, because when you buy something brand new, moment you open the packet, or even if you just bought it without opening it, the price kind of falls, the value depreciates a little bit. It's understood, any product, it will happen. But only time, if let's say a fragrance is discontinued, super hard to find, then you can sell it even for more price than you bought it for. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are not willing to suffer or incur that loss, and you think like spending or investing money in fragrances are pure wastage, I would humbly say that perhaps stick to fragrances that are more affordable, more safer, or your budget is within $20-30, you're used to that. Stick to those fragrances, because in those areas you're not going to have so much room for disappointment. I understand where it's come from, like let's say people with limited income or spending spree, they will feel like, if I'm going to upgrade it to $20 to $100 or $50-60, I'm expecting better performance. Not necessarily always. Sometimes fragrances that's worth hundreds of dollars do not last say 1 hour, but they give you the experience for 1 hour, natural ingredients, let's say neroli, or something pure ambergris, uh, let's say from a creed, you spend like 300 $400. You did enjoy it even lesser than your $20 cologne, let's say Playboy cologne, but you cannot really say that those expensive fragrance that you spend so much money on is not worth it. To many people it's worth it because they understand the value of natural ingredients, the experience. So it's about learning, it's not just about buying, showcasing. It's about you experiencing the fragrance, create stories or memories with it. You take your bottle to holiday or a drive and you spend at least a month or so, and then if you're not, it's not really happening and you want to just like move on to next thing, let's say vetiver is not your thing, then you like, then, but without using a fragrance, owning it. That's why I feel also that you have to invest in where you love your game. If you do not invest anything and you just talk all day, like let's say this fragrance game is not worth it, it's a waste of money, it's not, it's just complete waste of money and time. I would humbly disagree with that point because everything requires sacrifice. In life, nothing is free. Even air is not free. Yes, air is free, water is not free. So, yeah, the thing is, this is where the game, when you actually spend your hard earned money, you actually sacrifice to get it, to get a fragrance, you sacrifice your money. I think that's where fragrance game is going to be interesting to you. If you get everything for cheap, or for free, you're not going to value anything. Trust me. I know many people, they do not feel the fragrances should be expensive at all, or fragrance should be free. They're getting it for free, so it means like everywhere it's free. It's not the case. Fragrances are in general kind of expensive hobby, but it's not, I'm gonna say, for rich people. I'm gonna say this is for people with a lot of passion. It's for a lot of patience. If you do not have any of those, it's very difficult for you to play the game. Your heart should be there in the game. I am gonna buy a fragrance, I'm gonna really give it some time and see, like go with the flow, just watch what people are telling you. Hey, you smell nice, are you wearing Armani? You're like, yeah, I'm wearing Armani, stronger with you intensely. And you finish 20-30 ml, then if you love it or don't love it. So there's no given guarantee that when I talk about a fragrance or anybody talk about a fragrance, it's gonna be working 100% for you. There's no such thing as a perfect fragrance. They do not make fragrances as per your expectations. They make fragrances from their own, you know, uh, limitation or whatever the resources are, and they give you like, here is our story, here is a book, read it, and you might like it, you might like the, adventure. The best thing you can do is try to understand and then experience as well as learn and then adopt to something new which is not up to your taste. Let's say gasoline smell in Fahrenheit. If you smell it for the first time, you'll be like, what is this crap? It's not what I expected. But you think of it like, oh, gasoline, where's the gasoline? What is the note that's creating this feeling of gasoline? And why would they use gasoline with florals and then leather? What's the complexity behind it? When you start thinking in that channel, that's where you start loving, enjoying, and learning about a game, like a fragrance game. So these are the things, like that's why I really think this fragrance game is so worth it, because the amount of effort you put, I put so much effort from my side to do decant, this and that, so I can experience a lot more, leave out my comments or my reviews, rather you can say, uh, so I can suggest, this fragrance is good or not, is it, who is it for, or what was my experience like. And people will actually watch it, they'll be like, okay, this guy talk about it, noted. And then you go and try it and you see if it matches with you, if it works with you. So your style and my style, your taste and my taste, not necessarily always going to match, but there's no harm in learning and appreciating or knowing other people's taste. I always found out, like, if I like a watch, for example, I always like, I'll just show you something just to end. I always like watches like this shape and a little bit like a big dial, like 41 or 42, I don't know. I'm not a watch expert, but nowadays I'm liking watches. So this is one of my favorite watches, like Seiko. I like this shape of watches, and I stick to, I'll show you what I mean. I stick to my watches similar kind of way, like I like particular, I know what I like. But I respect people who wear square shaped watches, they like smaller dials, like 38 millimeters and stuff. I respect that. I try to understand what is the, like, let's say Bambino watch. Well, what's the great thing about it, because it looks very simple. So just saying that learning is the most important and most fun part of any game, right? So if you are going to regret buying fragrances or anything that you love, uh, think again, do you want to be in this game? So it requires days, time, like months, years. Once you do it over the years, then you feel like, no, I am belong here. If you just came in and you're like, oh, I don't like, oh, what's this shit people are talking about? I bought Arm of Venton, it's not the same as Dior Sauvage. I saw someone say that a few days back. I'm like, this guy serious? He spent like $20 and he's expecting Dior Sauvage quality. Did you ever say Ventana is as good as Sauvage? No, Dior Sauvage is Dior Sauvage. There is hardly any fragrances as good as that in terms of value, longevity, projection, But if you know that I spent little amount of money to get a taste of something that's much more expensive, and you use it as a clone, then you're playing the game right. So these are some things I want to talk about. Like uh, think really deep. Do your research, but once you actually pull the trigger, do not regret, because you are doing it for the love. If you think that you are feeling regret, perhaps take a break and see where your money is more important, that you want to invest. So that's the video I want to do today. Very long video. I'm sorry if someone watch. And if you feel like sharing your experience, do share with the audience. Hopefully I'll read and I'll come back to you. Everybody have a very nice day. Tomorrow I'll do hopefully some reviews. Good night from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Bye-bye.